Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we have got an awesome season of Backstage with Gig Performer coming up. A lot of really cool things to look forward to. I'm going to go through all of those in just a moment, but for those of you who are new and haven't been with us before on a Backstage stream, this is a time where we chat about how professionals, semi-pros are using Gig Performer in their live context. Oftentimes that's hosting virtual instruments, hosting effects, and using it to allow them to really focus on what matters, which is making music. And today is going to be one of those episodes where I think you're going to be blown away, not just by the results, but also by the simplicity in what's being done here and how it kind of yields something that's super powerful. So if you're tuning in, go ahead and make sure you hit the like button, but also let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hello in the chat. I would love to say hello to you personally. Dan Stringfellow tuning in from Yuma, Arizona. Welcome. Salters B. Davis the Fourth from Philly. Welcome. So glad to have you here. And we always got a question of the day, so I'm going to throw that up on the screen as folks are saying hello. In your opinion, and you can let us know this in the chat, what is the highest quality VST electric piano? We're going to talk about this a little bit more later during the stream, but I want to kind of get a little poll from our viewers, who's using what, why they like it. I know we have lots of different opinions about that, but yeah, do let us know in the chat. I'll share those thoughts as well. Dave Bolden popping in from the UK. Dave, so happy to see you. And Nemanja, hi, people. Big regards to Jacob and Brett. Yes. Thanks, Nemanja, for popping in. So good to see you on the stream. Okay, folks, so go ahead and let us know your highest quality VST electric piano. Pop that in the chat so we have a little bit of information for when we get there. I want to let you know that next week our stream will be on Friday. Usually we're on Thursday, but we've got Paul Gare from from Keyboard Players in Cover Bands, the Facebook group. So if you're a member of that group, you'll know what I'm talking about, but he's going to be coming on to chat all about his Gig Performer rig, and he's actually moved from hardware over to Gig Performer. So it's going to be a really fascinating episode where we're going to talk about his mental process, how things shifted for him when he started to use Gig Performer, and how he made the whole transition, which I can't actually remember the exact amount of time, but I think he was able to do the whole thing in almost 2 weeks. So really fabulous transition story. And you could see him over there playing his keyboard in the back. I know it's a bit zoomed out, but that is coming up next Friday, not Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, we'll have information about that on our Facebook page and in the forums. So if you are not subscribed there, do make sure you go ahead. Davide from Italy, welcome. So happy to have you here. Also, Fabrizio, welcome. So happy to see you as well. All right, today we have a special guest, Jacob Karlzon, coming on. Jacob is a jazz piano player, but he describes himself as an alternative musician on his website, and I think you'll start to see why as we chat through. He is playing the whole range of jazz music, definitely has all of the straight ahead chops, but also has some more experimental qualities and things that you might attribute to modern playing, has delved a bit into the heavy metal stuff as well, and is now producing music all across the board, which if you're watching right now, you can go ahead and go in the description of our video here, and you can check out his Apple Music page, which will have a full sampling of everything that he's done, so you can check out. And in addition to that, the footage you're seeing on the screen right now is from one of his newest projects, K-Star. And if you haven't checked out these videos, we have a great Gig Performer in action post put together by Nemanja that has both of these videos placed so you can see them in one spot. And this is some powerful stuff. Strong vibes, really great composition. The musicianship across the board is unreal. So if you haven't checked this stuff out, do go ahead and look in the Gig Performer community forum. We have that Gig Performer in action post where you can see this all in one place. We're going to bring him on in a second, but we got one answer about the highest quality. He said it is, Dave Bolden, a subjective matter, but the thing I found best for crafting exactly the sound I want is Lounge Lizard. So you got one vote for Lounge Lizard from Dave Bolden. But without further ado, I want to bring on our featured guest for today, Jacob. Welcome to the stream, Jacob.
Hi, great to see you.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you. I know we've been talking for for hours already, but yeah. Oh, we've got David Jameson casting his vote as well for Lounge Lizard. We'll
Oh,
get there. We'll get there. Well, Jacob, for folks who don't know you, who don't know what you are and what you do, can you give us a broad, zoomed out overview of who you are and what you're doing musically?
yeah, I can try. As you said, as you said, I'm playing. I played a lot of different styles within jazz.
Yeah.
I could say, and within other kinds of music before that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And went to the conservatory and studied. If you can study this kind of music, but I at least tried.
Yeah. Right.
Um, and then I've been working as a freelance pianist in different contexts and everything. And but one day I kind of as I don't know, it's weird, but as a piano player, you're supposed to have a trio. It's a huge
Right.
focus on that setting,
Yes.
and I just found out that I spend more time telling people what kind of music I didn't play.
Mm.
Because as soon as I said that I had my trio, well, do you play like is that a Oscar Peterson trio? Is that a Keith Jarrett trio? Is that
Mm.
a Bill Evans trio?
Yeah.
And then I kind of realized that I didn't really play the music that I was listening to quite a
Uh,
lot, and where there were a lot of influences that I didn't bring to the table within my own band.
mm-hmm.
So then I started to do that, and in that process somehow I also brought electronic elements
Ah.
into the whole thing.
Okay.
Um, tried to tried to, I would say,
Okay.
because and that brings us sooner or later it brings us to gig performer, of course,
Yes.
because you can do those kind of things in many different ways. And what I really felt from the beginning was that I didn't want to put, the electronic part like an icing on the cake. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted that to be part of the cake from the beginning to kind
Mm.
of integrate it in an organic way.
Wow.
That was
So
my
that was a great
goal.
overview. I'm like, I have so many questions just from that. I have to cancel all of the other ones I wrote down. So
Okay.
I'm just kidding. But okay, so when you had this revelation that you weren't bringing your listening to the table in which you were playing, what were you listening to that made you want to get the electronic elements in? Or it seemed like those ideas were connected. Is that true?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, as you said, as you mentioned before, I'm a metalhead
Okay.
from my early teens,
Yes.
and I came across the band Korn
Uh-huh.
in 2002 or three,
Okay.
something like that.
Hmm.
But before that, I listen a lot to Björk, for instance,
Okay.
uh, and I think that there are some incredible albums. I mean, of course, her debut album, but also Post, and then you go into Dancer in the Dark and Vespertine.
Hmm.
And what I really think is amazing with these albums are that she and the production is really blending and wiping out the borders between the really organic acoustic instruments and with Mark Bell's work with all these loops and all these sounds and everything kind of really made that kind of very organic, almost like a kind of ecologic system in a way, in a music
Yes.
way.
Yes.
Um, and that really inspired me. I listened to Depeche Mode when I was a kid, I
Hmm.
listened to a lot of different stuff, and these kind of things kind of connected me to that part of my musicality.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
of course. I mean, the one of my absolute heroes is Keith Jarrett, and
Hmm.
I mean, because of his touch, I
Yeah.
mean, because of the sound that he produces on the
Yes.
piano. And I would say that when going into the electronic part, blending that in, I got more and more kind of aware of sound overall, I think.
Mm, yeah. I love Keith Jarrett's Memories of Tomorrow.
Oh my
I
God.
remember went down a massive rabbit hole there, and it is you hear the touch is just unbelievable, from
Yeah.
top to bottom, right? Okay, so this is giving me so much context. So you were inspired by all of these sort of outside of the very small world of jazz improv, but you were kind of just bringing your full self to your music, and you it seemed like knew you needed to have some non-acoustic elements to do that honestly. Where
Mm.
did you start? Like you're like, okay, I need to bring this in. I'm gonna bring in some other sounds, and so I'm going to try using what? Where was your first stop on the music tech train?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of rabbit holes,
Yes.
what I did was I kind of started as many piano players do, adding a Rhodes
Okay.
to it, adding a physical Rhodes, which is something that you can do up to a certain age, I would say, when
Sure.
carrying it down.
Yes.
Uh, we're really spoiled as piano players because we just close the lid and then we leave
Right.
until we have to deal with a road situation. But that was what I did, and I started to use a lot of or I used multi effects. I used distortion pedals, delays, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, of course. And then I what was weird at that time was because I was working in so many different contexts at that time, so it was really difficult to kind of have this kind of continuous work with the electronic part because you were kind of thrown between a lot of different aesthetics.
Hmm.
And I would say most often at that time, electronics weren't a part of that.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't done on everyday basis. But then I kind of realized, especially when touring, unfortunately, you can't carry your own stuff because
Right.
of overweight on flights and everything.
Yeah.
And also, if you ask for certain things, sometimes they can't provide it, and you don't. For instance, if you ask for roads, you have no idea what kind of status that will have.
Yes.
What is a condition beside of a sustain pedal that never works anywhere,
Right.
more or less. Either it
Yes.
works a little bit too well or it doesn't work.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, so then the next chapter was me going into VST land
Okay.
at that time with a platform that was created by Native Instrument.
Yes. Okay.
Um, they had a thing called Core at that time, which was a great idea. It was also a controller, and but there was at that time, I think I had. I was a little bit unrealistic about what I wanted to create with the stuff with the gear I had at that time.
Okay.
So I ended up with in situations on festivals when playing with Victor Tolstoy, for instance, with a latency of between 50 and 60 milliseconds, which was pretty crazy. I had to kind of
Could you
develop.
do anything? That's like, is that that's a lot of time.
There's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs some planning in your playing.
Right. Right.
And I kind of I developed some kind of flam, those kind of flam things that drummers or percussion players work with, and I had to work with that because I was playing the acoustic piano at the same time as I was playing the synths. So I had to be, I had to be a little bit ahead of my time, if you
Okay.
know what I mean,
Wow.
with the synths. So I always had to kind of develop a different kind of timing with my left or my right hand, depending on what I was doing. So, and from that, um, I went into Ableton Land,
Okay.
um, and and I mean Ableton is really amazing with all the possibilities you have there. That was actually also before Max for Live were kind of established.
Okay. So this was like early days of Ableton.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
pretty early.
Okay.
Yeah, and but when it comes to working with synths in the way that a keyboard player needs to do, I think,
Right. Mm-hmm.
with yeah, stacking up things and also being able to move along through the set. That didn't really work for me at that time. And then it was through main stage for a little while, and that was also in early main stage days. So I've been a little bit all over the place, and also when it comes to since I need my hands for playing all the time, and where I'm adding the keys to the acoustic piano parts, I had to find ways of doing stuff with my feet.
Mm.
Um, because I mean, if you're playing something and you gradually want something to kind of develop during that, you don't have the possibility really to do it with your hands,
Right.
fading things up. I need to do that with my feet.
Yes.
And at that time, there were, a lack of pedals, for instance, for changing sounds or
Mm-hmm.
whatever at that time. And I drove the guys in the music store here in Malmö crazy. My God, it's that guy again,
Yes.
asking for something that we absolutely don't have and we don't know where to find it. And yeah.
Yeah.
And then f fast forwarding a little bit to Gig Performer,
Mm-hmm.
that I came across by accident somehow. I
Mm.
just saw a glimpse of it. I think it was online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of discovered that, wow, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I am now. And the thing is that I feel, I mean, following you guys, what you are doing, and following the people who are using this in those incredible ways. I feel ashamed of what it. I feel embarrassed about what it looks like and everything. But it's what I really love with Gig Performer is that you have the possibility to do so many different things with it, and you can find a way where it works for you and your needs. um, that might also, of course, change from for different projects and change over time and whatever.
Yes. Yes. So I want to look at your gig performer rig, but before I throw it on the screen, you mentioned Ableton. It didn't work for you because uh, it didn't have the step through functionality. Then you went to Mainstage early days, which did have the step through functionality. So why did you leave Mainstage?
At that time, the efficiency when it comes to the CPU wasn't allowing me to use the plugins that I really loved already back then. I mean, Omnisphere, for instance, which eats a lot of CPU, or could do that. I mean, I and especially when you're adding more stuff to it, also working with effects and stuff like that. I mean, from my point of view, you have to keep in mind that I didn't go that deep into the rabbit hole then, and I'm not doing that now either, actually, because I'm working on a lot of different things. So what I needed to do was to have a thing that was really easy to work with, that
Right.
you could call up whatever. And that was the reason for me that I mean, I really love Apple's products, and I really love the way that they kind of present, you know, the GUI and whatever it is. I mean, I really like it. I'm a Mac user since decades now.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to that, it felt like I need something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that has to be somewhere in between of main stage and live
Mm-hmm.
or Max for live or whatever.
Right.
And I then I kind of was really attracted by the possibilities with Gig Performer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, absolutely. And we've heard folks say very similar things. I know you had mentioned earlier, some level of embarrassment with what you've built. And I try and always tell folks one of the things anyway that's particularly captivating about Gig Performer is Gig Performer can look, feel, and behave in any way you really need it to do so that you can get the output. We're kind of an open template for you to create something that works for your performance. So I love to see what people are using, because at the end of the day, the audience actually doesn't know what's on your machine. All they know is if it's working. Right?
Yeah.
Like, all they know is the sound coming out and does it sound correct? Um, which I guess, to your point with, wanting to use Omnisphere, um, yeah, they don't know if it's Omnisphere or not. They just know if it's running and they can
Hmm.
hear it if it sounds good. Um, okay, so I know you put together a little set for us of Gig Performer. Can you show us a little bit about how you've set it up, and also why and what it's for? I'm gonna bring your screen on here. So this is which rig are we looking at right now?
I mean, these are is some stuff from the Questor concert
Okay.
that you were referring to before.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I basically did, what you see here is just because I work with a Korg Nano Control,
Okay.
which I really like because it's, I mean, I need to have to think about how to slim things down when traveling and with flights and everything. And I also have to carry this my setup
Mm-hmm.
as hand luggage, you know.
As hand luggage, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
I always have to fake my way, that it doesn't weigh more like 8 kilos.
Yes.
And as it is now, you should almost, need to add a zero to that eight,
Yes.
um, because it's really increasing. But anyway, so therefore, I work with a nano control, and so what you see here is based around that in a very, very simple way,
Yes.
um, on the stuff I need from the nano control.
Okay.
Um, Together with this, I use a Nord stage.
Okay.
Um, so so this is like, for instance, this first uh, thing here is a road sound,
Mm-hmm.
where I that sounds like this, and where I also have a CS80 um, with this layer. And together with that, now I'm doing it with faders, but usually I'm using I'm using volume pedals,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so therefore I have to kind of find a way with the faders where they have the same output, and then I control it with the volume pedals. And adding to this, I have to effects. So here yeah, first of all, here you have the delay mix. You can bring down the, and of course you can find the, you know, the sweet spot. And then depending on, because that's one thing that I also have to consider, because in playing improvised music, you have to kind of prepare for stuff that might happen. I
Right.
mean, the thing with improvised music is that when it works in its best ways, it's when you don't have expectations,
Mm,
where you don't plan to do certain things, but you have to kind of be a little bit prepared of what could happen, what
yes.
might happen, what kind of, it could go into different kind of energies or whatever. So for
Yes.
instance, with that said, with road sound, for instance, I think it's great to have the possibility of drive, because I mean, you can go from the very clean sound, and then you can add just a little bit to get this that gives it a temper. And this kind of, you get this grit, you get some dirt under the nails, and then you of course can turn it up completely like that. Sorry for.
No, it's so good. It sounds beautiful. I love what you're doing. And what's really awesome is that it seems to me like you're doing that with just a couple of effects. You've just got your delay, your drive, and your two sounds there. And you're just with that, you're making a lot of music.
Yeah, you have the possibilities. And what I really love with Gig Performer is that it's so easy to do these things. It's so easy to just create whatever you need, for a specific song or whatever. I mean, these things are just within the same plugin. I mean, I didn't add a certain delay plugin or uh, distortion or whatever. That's just within the plugin that I'm using.
Got it. And what are you using? What's your go-to e-piano of choice in line with
Uh,
today's
I'm,
question?
do you want me to reveal that already, or should
Is
we
it
create some tension?
Yeah, we can return to it later. So this is for one of your tunes. Is
Yeah.
is this one on YouTube? Can folks go listen to Downtown?
No, I think actually, because the thing is that we from the concert we focused on filming four songs, because we
Got it.
were it was the first gig with a band,
Got it.
and we rehearsed the same day and everything, and also we played a long concert, a long two set concert.
Got it.
So I wanted to kind of focus on some other stuff, but the next song, called Time and Time Again,
Yes.
is on that video.
Yes. Let's talk about Time and Time Again. So listening to this tune, from what I'm hearing, you're doing uh almost like amplifying your trumpet player, Mads Lacour. Did I say that right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
And he's folks who are watching who haven't heard this, go check it out. There's some high level musicianship happening there. But you guys are playing a lot in unison. It sounds like to me anyway. And the layers are so powerful. Can you show us what you have set up to make that happen?
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I wanted to have a kind of, on this song I wanted to have a kind of almost like a bass clarinet vibe
Hmm.
to um that specific yeah, that specific thing.
Yeah.
um but so it's kind of synthy.
Mm-hmm.
The whole groove is like, that's in the bass and drums, like
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And to add a little bit of kind of atmosphere to that, I took this kind of wind noisy sound You hear how that lives a little bit? It's like in the background somewhere.
Yes. Yes, I do.
And that's so easy to bring in or bring out
Mm-hmm.
however you like. And the thing is really like what I did is here I have on the nano control I have 8 faders.
Okay.
And I also I'm working with an RME sound card
Yep.
interface, and so it goes out to 2 separate stereo tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I can make really complex stuff where you have, for instance, you could have a big omnisphere multi on one fader.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have a completely orchestral whatever on another fader, and you can put those kind of relationships individually with
Mm-hmm.
with these 2 faders here.
Yes.
Um, and then you can add some more. I mean, you can add 2 more channels to that, and then you can have another setup with 4 different channels.
Yes.
So that makes it possible to do really complex soundscapes if you want to go into that direction.
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore, for instance, this is one part. It's a little bit tricky to do it now with without the volume pedals, but I mean, if you would go into the next section, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interlude. It's not mentioned here because here it goes directly to the B part,
Got
but
it.
in the interlude part, you have this kind of more a kind of woodwind section,
Mm-hmm.
where I can whoops, sorry,
It's okay.
wrong fader. And for this song, I'm kind of I was pretty inspired by the stuff by Klaus Augerman, the arranger who arranged a lot for Frank Sinatra, but also did these incredible albums with Michael Brecker.
Mm.
And
Okay.
if you don't know it, all of you should check it out because it's such a beautiful piece of art. It's called Cityscape.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those kind of things.
Yes. Yes. It's so beautiful. What would you mind showing us your wiring view?
Sure.
Um so we can just see how things are built there. Wow. Okay. I love this. So
Welcome to the spaghetti.
yes, I'm all about the spaghetti. Let's bring on the spaghetti here. Okay. So you've got your MIDI in block
Yeah,
and it's running directly to your 3 patches. So you then must be using those gain and balances to control whether or not audio passes through. Is that correct?
exactly.
Okay. This is amazing. So, for folks who are watching, we have some users who turn or bypass their plugins. We have some users who filter out note on messages. And in this case, Jacob, what you're doing is just using the volume. You're keeping it super simple so you can just bring in and out things as you need.
Yeah.
What are you doing on the CZV? Did you build that patch or is that a preset?
That is a preset that I tweaked a little bit.
Okay.
What
Uh-oh.
am I doing?
There you go. You
Waiting.
fixed it.
Wait. And that is the ZZV is this kind of yeah, the melody sound that we heard before.
Okay.
Let me see. No, sorry. I just put that down and that up. This one.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And then what are you doing in Omnisphere? What Is that a preset as well, or did you build that sound yourself?
That is based all these many of the stuff that I'm using actually, since I'm using that together with other things, I've I've kind of based it around a lot of presets.
Got it.
Actually. But I'm changing that now because now it's the thing is that just before COVID, there was some substantial touring with the whole electronic part, where I
Okay.
kind of really got became friend with Gig Performer, and
Yes.
then everything kind of just went down. After that, it's been in and out if I should use electronics or not. I've been really in between, and especially finding a way to use it in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
going away from anything that has to do with backing tracks that I also used before with Ableton, um,
Mm-hmm.
getting out of the grid somehow,
Yes.
of so therefore I'm in the next chapter now where I'm working much more with sound, where I'm also starting a really interesting collaboration with a sound designer in the Netherlands,
Wow. Okay.
who's working a lot with both Omnisphere and Contact. But this here is let me see. Yeah, there we go. This
Breath
is
of Life.
a song called Breath of Life,
Okay.
and I changed and customized it. But this is, yeah, it's a preset, and
Mm-hmm.
that is the one that gives the kind of texture that we
Yes.
talked about. In itself, it's not. No, I don't know why you still hear that. You
Oh, I
shouldn't
hear
hear
it
that.
coming through now. It looks like one of your wires got disconnected, but it's coming through now.
Oh, okay, weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I
that
do
is.
I do hear it coming through. You know, it's sometimes I've heard folks say this. Oh, I see what happened. There's
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry.
the
Yeah.
sometimes we focus on, the only tool we have for supporting a sound to give it a little bit of texture is reverb, but
Yeah.
sometimes another synth like you did here can almost function as a reverb because it's creating some support underneath the sound,
Yeah.
which is nice. It's a really cool thing. Okay, awesome. So we have some questions coming in
Hmm?
that I would love to have you answer. So first question is from Christian, and it says, "How many volume pedals? How many volume pedals do you use?"
Yeah. Yeah. I use three. No, in a way I use four actually,
Okay,
unfortunately, because I use two for the stuff that is coming out from the laptop.
okay,
Oh no, sorry, because what and that is not shown here. Because what I do is that I use also effects on the grand piano, on the acoustic piano,
okay. I didn't know that.
that I also route to through the
RME.
yeah, or me, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Um, and I use one volume pedal for that,
okay.
so I can fade those kind of things in and out. Um, Then I have two for these things
Mhm,
that you see here,
mhm.
um, and also one for the Nord stage when I use the internal sounds
Okay,
from there.
got it, got it, got it. So four pedals in total.
Yeah, three to
And
four
is there a
pedals.
volume pedal that you like in particular?
I like the Boss FVL,
Okay.
uh, because it's kind of, once again, it works to get it into hand luggage. It's sturdy enough
Mhm.
to bring on tour
Yep.
in this way. And sometimes when I'm on tour in Germany, for instance, for more back-to-back tours, then I leave some stuff there so I don't have to fly with it back and forth. So I try to have a setup there
Got it.
for the
Got it.
things.
I love it. Another question: what is good about the RME audio interface over the other interfaces?
What I felt is that I really like the RMEs because they sound somehow warm
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Okay.
Um, and I haven't really been around. I had this for quite some time now, and you should see you should see the connection between the RME and with all the different adapters going to finally the USB-C
Mm-hmm.
to the laptop. So I would say that the most important piece of gear is that cable.
Right.
You know, that's the most exclusive stuff I have, and the most the one that is absolutely most difficult to get hold on.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think that especially when working with VSTs or AUs or whatever, it's always the more warmth you can have and keep or whatever, the better it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, of course, it has to be. It's still going to be. There's a lot of things that happen on the way, but I kind of really like the sound
Yes.
of the army, and also, of course, using effects going from a grand piano, and with all this you want to try to keep as much warmth as possible there as well. And still, I know that there are so many other solutions out there, but this is really I have to think as much pragmatic about the whole thing as possible as well,
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
keeping it down size wise and everything.
Yep. Absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. Okay. So let's see here. I wonder if yeah, David wrote in as well and said the sound difference um, is significant. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Okay,
makes
great.
sense. Cool. Well, so I think I've got a good handle on these. Is there any other patches in here that you might be able to show us?
Sure. I mean, I could, for instance, I could show you two different things that are maybe a little bit more complex.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
And so this is, it starts with a kind of Rhodes
Mm-hmm.
sound once again, because I like to have, I like to have that bass somehow,
Mm-hmm.
to as a starting point somehow,
Yes.
which is still organic. Um, sounds like this, and then I'm using an effect chain from Sound Toys,
Okay.
like that,
Mm-hmm.
and together with that, I'm using some. I have one thing going on here that is on the
Mm-hmm.
audio file player.
Yep.
Sounds like this from the beginning. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I have to change the view here.
No, it's
Uh,
okay.
Find out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. Oh, there we go. Yeah, here we have that, because this is a black hole reverb,
Okay.
and it starts with maximum effect, so it sounds like a kind of just some noise,
Right.
And when you turn that down, you hear this sound, um, which is actually a sound that is being tweaked um, by this. So it's actually a loop that sounds like this from the beginning, a very hysterical drum and bass thing.
Oh, okay. I hear it now.
But from the beginning, I mean, with that effect, it sounds like this. It almost sounds like something that would come out from a radio, a
Right.
broken someone speaking about something.
Yep.
And and from the beginning with all this, it's completely, and that makes it possible for me to go in many directions with this, and
Mm-hmm.
that together with this sound, I have a pad and to make that more intense. And together with this sudden. And we're back to the
Yes.
simple
Yes.
uh, notes.
That is so awesome. It's really cool how you can have, so you have four elements, really,
Yeah,
and with all of the different transformation you're doing, the range of sound that's possible with just those elements. I guess you didn't specifically address it here, but all of your music is improvised. So having the ability to improvise not just with your notes but with your sounds seems to
yeah,
align with what you're doing.
yeah. It's really incredible. I mean, the kind of the specter that you can use in this way, the palette,
Mm-hmm.
of different expressions. It's beautiful. I
Yes.
I really enjoy it.
Yes, it's so cool. I love it. So what? You see, you said a black hole. What is the snap heap effect doing?
The snap heap is, yeah. What is that? That's a very good. That's a good. I don't even know myself.
That's okay. No, well,
Um,
it's cool because you built it and you like the way it works. So now you've
yeah.
stopped thinking about it.
Here's the effect chain
Okay.
from Sound Toys.
Okay.
But I thought that was the one that I was looking for. Let me see. No, here it is. Here it is. There's a filter freak as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing track of what I'm doing. This is a grain. This is what this is doing.
Got it.
Let's see. Yeah. So I mean, the snap heap is controlling the loop
Okay.
that together with a filter freak creates this really weird yeah, whatever it is. And
Yes.
sometimes you just kind of you bring something up and you have no idea what it's going to do, and you have no idea what your intention is for it to do
Mm-hmm.
even.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what I like to think about it is like you kind of improvise with this as well. And that's what I'm using Gig Performer, because it's so easy to just call something up and just connect it with the wires,
Mm-hmm.
adding whatever instead of thinking about auxes or buses or whatever and how that is routed or anything. It's just like you try something in just seconds and then you change your mind or you just take something else.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that. That is one of the things that I love about Gig Performer as well.
Yeah.
Okay, really awesome. We're right now we're at about 52 minutes. So if you have questions for Jacob and you would like him to answer them live on the stream, then go ahead and put them in the comments so that we can have him answer. Um, Okay, cool. I want to ask you a question about your composition um, in Time and Again, which I know you showed us that. When you
Yeah.
were writing, did you already have an idea about the vibe that you wanted to achieve? And did you know that it would be electronic, or did the music come first? Or was it have something to do with the players? Like what was the order of events? Was it composition and then your soundscape? Was it soundscape that inspired the composition?
In this specific case, it started with that groove.
Okay. Yes.
And it started with this kind of Phrygian, like a G flat over F, kind of vibe. That was the whole idea about it. This kind of suggestive, pretty monotone thing that is just going on somehow, which frees a lot of possibilities on top of that, because you can decide as a piano player, knowing that yourself, and of course you guys watching,
Mm-hmm.
um, you, that is a palette in itself, of
Yeah.
course, and that is, you have the beauty in just changing the musical direction with your left hand,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you can just going from a major to minor or whatever it is, you can really change the scenery, and that is what I really like, what I really love to do as a piano player. And when writing music for this band overall, as a kind of overall thing, uh, is pretty much different from what I did before, because now I really focus on, to have this kind of a kind of open structure somehow. You create just a skeleton with, hopefully strong enough melody or strong enough foundation for people to kind of get a vibe out
Mm-hmm.
of it, uh, that might point you in a certain direction, but you don't necessarily have to go there. It's like
Yes.
just like a suggestion somehow, you know?
Yes. Yep.
And sometimes when, especially when bringing in electronics and those kind of sound ideas or whatever, you already have a kind of expectation of where you want it to go. And you always have to kind of, or I want to balance that with the an identity of the song,
Mm-hmm.
but thinking about the songs and those kind of compositions like a subject to discuss
Mm.
somehow.
Yes.
Um, and sometimes, and I'm sure you all felt that when writing music, that sometimes you kind of control where the music is going, and you have a very strong idea of where you want it to go. But sometimes that those kind of things really unfold themselves somehow
Yes.
in
It
front of you.
reminds me a lot about listening to Bill Evans talk about Scott LaFaro in how he would say, I try not to give too much direction
Yeah,
because
yeah,
otherwise the music may not go where it wants to. And and you're way more open in especially in these compositions, but there is a certain freedom and layering kind of these sonic elements on top of it. It's almost like there's the improvisational element and the space that you've created inside of the composition, and then there's another layer of space with the soundscapes, um, which is just it's very interesting. Okay, I appreciate you answering that. It looks like we don't have any other questions popping in right now, but I do have a final question for you, which I probably should have given you a heads up on before, but we'll put you on the spot and see if you were going to give one piece of advice to a brand new gig performer user, what would you tell them?
um I would say in that case that I think that what is great with gig performer is that you could think about it as, I don't know if you guys played with Lego when you were kids,
Hmm.
but I think that that's one of the greatest inventions ever. How
Hmm.
you kind of you get something, you get all the parts and you build a model, and then you kind of, yeah, you're done with that, and you can't wait to kind of deconstruct that to start building new things yourself.
Yes.
And I think that that was the way that I kind of found my way into gig performer, because sometimes you feel that you have to know everything about a device or a software or whatever it is
Hmm.
to fully understand that, and then you can start to create.
Yes.
But in my way, it was really like you kind of you find how gig performer will work for you as you go along. And what I really love is that it's this kind of open source feel to it, where things are constantly added, where there are things that you discover that you might not do from the beginning and that you might don't even understand or whatever. And all of a sudden, you get yourself a problem somehow because you want to do a certain thing. And then you start to figure out, is it possible to do it? How could I do it in that case? And that is the beauty of gig performer, that you really you create whatever you like with it. So my suggestion would be like, just go explore. Um, just figure out what needs you have and figure out how you could reach out. I mean, the community, for instance, and all these possibilities are just great for anyone to find solutions and
Yes.
ideas and tips and tricks.
Yes. I appreciate that. David has sent me two more questions for you, so I'm going to throw them your way.
Oh, great.
But that's
Hi.
I love the way you're thinking about it because it's. Oh, should I bring Dave? David, do you want me to bring you on? Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
I didn't do this pre-stream, so I'm gonna add David quickly. This is live in the making, friends. Here we go.
Beautiful.
Hey, David.
Improv.
Can we hear you?
It worked.
Oh, it
Hey,
Ah,
worked. Hey, we can hear you.
I, I have, yeah, I have a really important question.
okay.
Why is there a boomerang over your door?
Yeah, that's a great question. I
I'm kidding. I just saw it as like, okay, it comes back to you, so it's an echo.
yeah,
I actually had several questions. You mentioned volume pedals earlier. I was wondering, are you really just using volume pedals, or are they expression pedals that you can use to control other functionality, like wah-wah filters and so on?
that's great. Yeah, that's great because I actually I forgot that pedal because that's the one that I'm using in when using the Sound Toys effect rack, bringing that in. And the pedal that I'm using is a kind of, yeah, customized, built in Poland actually, that I bought like 5 or 6 years ago. Um, but anyway, um, I use that for being able to bring in sometimes expression, as you say. Sometimes with the Spitfire library, you can use dynamics in that way, which is also a really interesting way of creating this kind of more organic vibe to these amazing libraries. And I was also thinking, at one period of time, I was thinking of if I should get rid of the RME, the interface, and use Dante instead. And then use, you
I have
know,
a Dante system. I'm not sure. I,
okay,
I use an RME for touring, and I would not change it. It has been totally reliable for like 12 years. Um,
great,
you know,
great. That
Dante
brings
in
my
the
shoulders
studio,
down.
maybe, but I don't think I want to. I want to tour with it.
No,
Uh,
cool. Because what I was thinking of is that, you have a lot of wires, of course. You have a lot of physical wires going in and out and everything, and all these cables. So that was the only reason to, in that case, use USB pedals for controlling volume parameters and everything. But I'm still a fan of having certain things analog, having that kind of connection to it. Maybe it's a mental thing, I don't know. But it's good to hear what your take on the Dante.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get too thing. I have a 64 channel Dante system in my studio, but then I have a lot of physical synths and they all go into stage boxes. Then they go off to the mixer, and then the mixer is connected to my computer through Dante.
Mhm.
It works. Their software is very difficult to configure. It's probably great in a permanent environment, but I'm not convinced for like you get up on stage and okay, set that up and make it work.
Yeah.
But my question about the volume pedal, I was wondering, are they actually analog volume pedals or are they MIDI expression pedals, or are you plugging them into something that converts them into basically MIDI, so they send MIDI?
No, no, they're physical. They're physical.
No,
It's
how do you control like a filter cutoff with a physical?
with the thing is that I have one MIDI expression pedal,
Okay,
um, and that is connected via USB. Uh,
okay, okay,
so, but
okay.
it's only one. It's only one that I use for that, and I. I think that, you know, I try to avoid these kind of things while playing because I think that you can do a lot with volume in itself. And I think that all those kind of filter things and cutoffs is something that I'm going to explore more in depth, as well as all these kind of beautiful split point and all those kind of beautiful split possibilities that is within Gig Performer, where you can assign
MIDI response. Yeah, yeah.
the top note to a certain sound and all these kind of things. That opens frees so many possibilities for me because I will do this. I'm doing solo concerts with this now as well. So and I'm planning for that in many different ways.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate it.
and I have to say thank you when you're here now, for this incredible product. I'm really happy to be able to do that in person.
Oh, we're delighted to have you on board. Yeah, we built this to scratch an itch because we couldn't find other things that worked for us. And it's great that other people love it too, of course.
Oh, really? I'm a
Great.
big fan.
Actually, that brings up another question. There's the one of the most interesting, I'm not sure it's a problem, but one of the interesting things that comes up often when we see comments from people who like tried it, didn't like it. It turns out that has mostly come from people who have tried to make Gig Performer work as if it was a channel strip system. And of course, since it doesn't use channel strips, trying to make it work like a channel strip can be rather frustrating. It sounds like you found it very easy to get up to speed with Gig Performer. And I was just wondering about your thoughts on the approach that we use because it's very different from a channel strip model.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's for me that's the beauty of it. And I can imagine that it looks and feels confusing. I think it's a little bit like what I felt for Max for Live, for instance. It was just like, oh my God, am I looking into space or what is this? And I think, you know, this kind of very open workspace where you can link whatever you like to each other and you can route it in so many different ways. For me, that creates a lot of freedom somehow. That makes it very easy to not having to plan certain things and not having to keeping track of where did I route that or this and two buses or whatever. You really see it here.
Yeah.
And I think it's a kind of mindset that you kind of go away from this kind of way of thinking, which I still, of course, do in the studio. But and speaking of studio, I mean, for instance, when I worked with Dominic Miller on tour, I with this I prepared zillions of sounds faking, the analog strings or the analog pad from Fragile and whatever, And quite soon I understood that he's he doesn't have a set list. He thinks about it as a menu. He actually says that, this is the menu for tonight, and you have a lot of songs that might come up,
Mm.
and he calls it. And since he was sitting with his back against me, I never heard what song it was, so it was always a little bit too late. But in the studio, when working with him on a project that isn't released yet, this was amazing. This was absolutely amazing because then as you go along, you just think of, well, yeah, we should maybe, do you have a road sound or do you have a pad sound? And he had very specific ideas of what he wanted. And then you can just add stuff as you go along in a very, very easy way. And you can just connect it in this way. So you always see, you can keep track of the whole chain,
Mhm.
and that really frees so much time, actually,
The
and which is of the essence when being in a studio, of course.
thing, one of our goals, which I felt was really important, as was this is for a musician, not a mix engineer. You
Mm.
shouldn't, a musician should be focusing on, I want to play my instrument and I want to create my sounds.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have to care about, okay, I got to do a send and add another bus here and send something over to it. And, I just connect this to this like a guitarist does with effects pedals, plug them in, connect them, and focus on performing. And
Yes.
that's really what we were trying to accomplish, apart from the reliability, which was what started the whole thing. You might be interested to know, by the way, that I built the prototype that I toured with Max MSP, before Gig Performer. And the reason Gig Performer has OSC support in it was because when we did build it, I still needed at the time to use my Max patchers, and I had them sending OSC messages into Gig Performer to use Gig Performer's plugins, very reliable, but still the processing in Max for the MIDI. You don't need it anymore, but that's why it's there.
Wow. But
Yeah.
that's amazing because I mean this also open up, and I think that's such a great thing with Gig Performer that um, it can expand in so many different ways, not only as a software in itself, but also you can grow together with that, and that can grow together with your musical journey. Because I mean, all of a sudden, I'm thinking of now because I have a great collaboration with DMB that are working with Soundscape. So I did some shows with them in Soundscape, which is amazing, of course. But I mean, all of a sudden, you can really think about taking this as we already see, where mixing engineers for front of house and everything are using this and adding the obviously possibilities to this and controlling lights and controlling all these
Well, we
kind
do
of
that. Yeah, we do that. One of the things last summer, and we're doing it again this summer. One of the bands I play in, we were involved. We did a theatrical version of The Wall,
yeah.
uh, where they had a Broadway cast, and they actually built a wall as the show proceeded, and they had video. And in song parts, in gig format, as we're going through, um, my system was actually sending OSC messages to front of house to queue up the videos.
Wow.
So yeah, absolutely, you can do. That wasn't why we did it in the first place, but yes, you can do that kind of thing with it very easily. So yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
yeah. So a
it,
lot of cool things there.
yeah.
Anyway, Keep your time. I don't want to hold you up or all the people who are watching. Thank them
No,
well
that's
for watching, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Jacob, it's an honor to have you. Folks, we'll be back next week on Friday, not on Thursday. Jacob, thanks so much for being here. Honor to get to chat with you, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.